Okay, we are live with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, and I'm with Travis Barbee, the director of Parks and Rec at City of Morristown, Tennessee. How are you doing today,
I'm doing
Travis?
great, sir.
Yeah, we had a really good show prep call, and there's a couple of things that he's just doing super well, and I wanted him to speak about that because we feel like a lot of cities, the two topics are he's done a great job of recovering costs. He's gotten 4 times the cost recovery in his tenure there, and now his goal is to maybe even double it from where it's at now. And then he's really good at just representing the park to all the stakeholders, the politicians, and how Parks and Rec people could do a much better job of just involving a lot of the mayors and the city managers in the wins throughout the year. But before we go there, I wanted Travis to go back to when he was in high school and describe who he was as a high schooler, if he thought about Parks and Rec at all, any exposure, if he stumbled into it later in life, but kind of just take us from high school up. So who were
Okay.
you in high school?
Oh, high school. I went to Cass High School
Uh-huh.
in Cassville, Georgia. So, uh, love that place. Uh, I was kind of a little bit of an athlete. I played soccer and golf, kind of fringe sports in Georgia. We're a football, baseball place, but those were my passions, and I really didn't know what I was going to do outside of going to high school. I just knew college was mandatory. So I went to college and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was struggling. And then my high school soccer coach goes, "Hey, I'd like you to be an assistant coach."
Really?
Yeah. So here I am, just a year graduated
Mm-hmm.
or two, and he makes me an assistant on the team. So I'm like, "Hey, I love this. I want to be a coach."
Mm-hmm.
And I started down the path of being a college coach. So I went to Kennesaw State and I got a sports management degree, concentrated in recreation, because it was like you could go into sales for like if you want to work for a professional franchise and ticket sales kind of deal, game day operations, or rec. And I was like, well, I love rec because I spent my whole childhood there. So
Right.
it seems like a great degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I pursued the college route, but I eventually had a family, and I started, and I was like, I don't want to spend my whole life on the road, recruiting and working 7 days a week, forever, to just make an average income, probably as a lower level kind of soccer coach in college. So I said, what's your second favorite thing in the world? And it was Parks and Rec. So I sent out 1 million applications. I started like trying to get involved in my sports management alumni program, see if there was any connections. And I ended up in the little town of Unicoi, Tennessee.
Unicoi.
Yes, they had, I believe, one, two, three, four full-time employees
Wow. For the whole city?
for the whole city.
Oh my gosh.
So they got a grant from the state of Tennessee to start a Parks and Recreation department. And they really believed in tourism. So I thought, I'd be setting up sports programs and stuff. I didn't do any of that. I had historical tourism and parades and festivals.
That was your directive as Parks and Rec director?
Well, they didn't even have any fields. So, I mean, there was no
Right.
other, like, it's a little mountain town.
Mhm.
And that's what the mayor loved. And I just started to slowly but surely figure out politics. In a small town, they are bloody.
Mhm.
Uh, the bigger you get, usually it's not as bad because
Right.
there's insulation between the public is not related to every city council member.
Right.
In a town of 3,000, that pool is very small.
That's right. Everybody knows everything.
Everybody knows. So, that was tough, but it built me. I basically became a special event programmer with a title of director. So
Hmm.
I still made budgets. I still reported, to the city council meetings, or board of mayor aldermen is what they had. Um, and I was there for that grant for 2.5 years.
Mm.
And then, they had an option to renew the third, and they're like, hey, just wait, we're going to renew it, but politics there was bloody, and I was like, I don't want to stick around for this. So I took a job with the Durham, North Carolina,
Mm.
the city of Durham. So I went from small country town to very urban area.
How big is Durham?
I think Durham's about 80 or 100,000 people.
Wow, that is a big leap.
Yeah, it's a big leap where, you have community centers and all these little neighborhoods, very urban, kids taking a bus to get to,
Mm-hmm.
maybe practice or something.
Right.
So,
And what'd you do there?
I was a sports manager. I forget the exact title, but it was something like that. And there was 4 of us there. So it was very different culture compared to anywhere I'd ever been. But it just taught me to continue to work with different populations, different people. You go from being, I think in Morristown, or not Morristown, in Unicoi, I think there was like maybe 4 people of color in the whole community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, they hired me and 2 other white guys at the same time. And I think we were the only ones in the department of like 300 people.
Wow.
So it was just different. I mean,
different culture altogether.
You're in a different place, that they're there with some, HBCU colleges, and you have Duke in North Carolina. So it's a different world, but they all help build me. Kind of look at it that way.
And so when did you start in Morristown, or when did you make the move there?
3 years ago. So in 2021.
Now, when did you notice that it was, or maybe take us through all the lessons that you learned with working with the people that write the check to Parks and Rec, meaning the mayors, city managers, that kind of stuff?
Well, so like my very first conference I went to in Tennessee when I was just learning, I heard a great speaker at conference, and Tom O'Rourke, and he teaches for NRPA and stuff now. And I believe University of Clemson, he has like a certificate program. And he just talked about kind of an inverted pyramid, the programs that only apply to a small niche number of people. Let's say like sailing, they would need to pay for themselves, maybe plus some, and down to where football could be offered at a discount. That's where the masses wanted to participate in. And, that's different for every community, obviously, what those programs are. It kind of laid a framework in my mind from then on out. And of course, at Durham, they looked at everything very differently, and I wasn't in a position of power, but I always knew once I could shape things that I would start to move down that path. And in Catoosa County, Georgia, when I worked there, I started it and I had the control. And when you start to show elected leaders the data, it's easy for them to get behind you.
Now, what kind of data are you kind of, you've got all the data that you could show them. What's the heavy hitter data?
So right now, I mean, cost recovery, the bottom line is always, and just updated for this year, we're on track to get about 10 to 11% cost recovery. So we just did budget, so I can, correlate to last year. So when I say, okay, we were getting 1 cent back on the dollar that you gave us, now I'm giving you 11 in 3 years. And then really what's their goal? But when I can also go in there and go, okay, so I had scheduled events. The previous year we had 2,000 scheduled events over 365 days. This year we have almost 5,000.
Now how do you describe a scheduled event?
So that's any practice, any facility rental, any game.
Wow.
So when I'm saying like maintenance needs, I say we have to prepare for 15 activities, 365 days of the year.
Wow.
And I said, when you think about in the coldest months of the year, say February, January, there's really not as much going on. So really you're combining that into 10 months out of the year. So you're saying we have 18 events to prepare for every single day.
Wow.
And when I start to show them the increase in that, they go, whoa, people are using all the parks. They are very busy.
Yes.
And then they might go, okay, well, what's the busiest area? And I can, I just pull up and go, Frank Lorino Park had more visitors this year than anything else. And I can show you that this is maybe where we should spend our money.
Now,
because
where
it's
do you
where
get
people
that?
are going.
Where do you get that data from?
So there's a lot of recreation software programs out there. We use RecDesk here, and I
Mhm.
can just run a simple facility usage report, and it tells me.
And how do they gather it? Just through cell phones?
No, so anytime there's a scheduled event, we have to plug it in. Like
Mhm.
field 1 from 6 to 7, there's a girls' practice. Field 1 from 7 to 8, there's a practice. Field 3, 4, 5, 6. So all those things together can be sorted by that facility, and then you can look at any time frame you want, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and
Mm.
go, okay, well, that's how much we utilize the facility.
Yeah, I see. I see.
So I just sort that data for them, and then they go, wow.
Yeah. And so really, is it just showing them, hey, you might not see it all the time, but these parks are being used round the clock, 18 times a day, year round. This is obviously important to the community.
Your
If
elected officials are very vulnerable to somebody who knows them, who has their own passion, and goes, we really need this kind of park,
Right,
or we really need to fix this area. It's the most important thing. We love it. And you know what? It might just be across the street from their house
right.
or their kid's house. And that's where they want you to spend money and fix.
Yeah.
But when, you can always be subject to a mob rule that way,
Right.
Like I've been into it with pickleball, which I love pickleball. We're investing in it massively. But we built a new facility and they're like, well, why didn't you accommodate pickleball? I said, well, you don't use it. Our numbers say, we have less usage now than they did 7-8 years ago.
Mm.
But when we didn't accommodate them, they showed up with 50 people to a community meeting and saying, hey, we're being overlooked. You hate pickleball. Like, no, I'm building you $1 million facility over here, but the numbers don't show that you actually utilize this facility.
Right.
And the numbers are really what matters. It's not just how you feel.
Now, how often do you communicate this? Are we talking monthly, quarterly?
Well, so I have weekly meetings with the city manager, and then he likes me to compile these little things he sends them out notes on Fridays. But I might take this data up once a quarter, or
Mhm.
if I'm asking, no, I got big things coming up that they should be clued into, I'll put it closer to them.
I see. I see. And so park usage, the numbers and how it's being used, what you're looking at. Now, do you also present with them the amount of revenue that these events bring in from concession stands, or what are the revenue drivers?
It's usually more behind closed doors because I don't think they want to talk about Parks and Rec as a money making entity,
Mhm.
and we're not. But they like it when we're fiscally responsible because that's
Right.
something almost every person can get behind.
Right.
When it's just free, people tend to devalue it.
Right.
And the cities I've worked at where it was more of a charity program, people never show up.
Right.
You lose 30% of your respondents for just they signed up because they could, but not because they really wanted it.
Right.
So you need to balance that. They need a little bit of skin in the game, but it needs to be affordable.
Right.
And we need to find a ways to scholarship people when it makes sense. But that's just a very hard thing to do. I like it. The cities that have a foundation that help with that, I think, are the way to go. But
Right.
we don't have one here yet.
Mm. So now, in what other ways have you used or found ways to do cost recovery?
Well, I look for a lot of win-wins, so a lot of the programs when I got here, their prices were set.
Mm.
Okay, so not much I can change on the price of the program. Sometimes I can ask for $5 or $10 here and there, but sponsorships, we are massively into the sponsorship game. Like I knew we had pretty low quality jerseys in basketball when I got here. And those jerseys, when they're nice, that's a walking billboard for your program because kids will continue to wear them. They'll wear them in school. They'll wear them on the playground in town. So I said, if we can upgrade that. So I went and I found a real estate agent. I was told somewhere if people will put their name on a billboard, a bench, or a bus, you should be asking them to sponsor you.
Yep.
So real estate agents are always a hot take on that. So she said, yeah, I'll write you a check. I need the deduction. Here's $4,000. Well, I took my old budget for jerseys and then I added $4,000 to it. And then we massively upgraded it.
Mm.
We just had to put their name and phone number on the back. Works for me.
Yeah.
And then we've continued to grow that now. My admin assistant now. Basically, she fundraises around. We're on target to go over $25,000 or $30,000 this year, and that makes a big difference. In a $3 million budget to go, oh, you have an extra $30,000 to spend.
Wow, that is big. Now, how do you get the word out to the community as far as for your special events, or are y'all building any kind of online presence, or how do you let the community know?
Okay, so we're using Facebook now, and it's good for some things, but like anything, as soon as it becomes adopted, it almost is overwhelmed by information.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a combination. We have a kiosk in the mall, we have our online, we have a park that runs the main interstate. Like in town, we're near a stoplight, and we have a massive sign we put there since the park is there.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always looking for new and creative ways. And I think like I was exposed to some AI commercials, and I was like, oh, that's videos.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you need it, because people see a million pictures, flip, flip,
Yeah.
flip, flip. But the second they can watch it and go, oh, that's cool, or oh, that's not as intimidating thing as I thought to sign my kid up this way.
Oh yeah, that's something, and that's actually one way we fund this show is we have digital artists that make these videos, and so we're working with some cities to be able to promote a festival or just what the city offers, or a farmer's market or something. That actually, it might be a good time to. One of them designed this. This is a good little promo. It's somewhat of a commercial for the show to basically work with us. So it lasts about 2 minutes. Let me press play, and then we can come back and talk about promoting. And get the word out for y'all.
Good day, Parks and Rec fans. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
Across the country, parks and recreation departments work hard to build thriving community spaces. But what if no one knows about them? Without the right promotion in this digital age, incredible parks, programs, and events go unnoticed. And that means missed opportunities for families, communities, and local businesses. That's where the Daily Parks and Recreation Show team comes in. We specialize in high-quality promotional videos tailored to promote your local park and recreation areas. Expert social media management to boost online presence and engagements. And tailored marketing strategies for promoting events designed specifically for parks and rec departments. We don't just create videos, we tell stories. Stories that inspire, engage, and bring communities together. By working with us, your department doesn't just get professional social media marketing support. You become part of a bigger movement, showcasing the vital role of Parks and Rec across the nation.
Perseverance is critical to improving. It's just don't quit, don't give up, keep pushing. Especially in these park systems, park directors are constantly bombarded with things that they need to overcome and achieve with limited resources, limited staff. And perseverance is definitely in the job description of anyone in Parks and Rec. So like Julie Angie said, perseverance is failing 19 times and succeeding the 20th.
Boost your visibility, engage your community, amplify your impact. Let's make Parks and Rec the heartbeat of every city. Message us today, and let's start telling your story.
Yeah, so that's just an example of some of the stuff that we're doing, because sometimes you just need like a little video for your event coming up or your fair or something, and then once it's created, you can use it for like 5 years in websites and social media and just kind of blast it out.
That's great stuff.
Yeah, it's neat how, of course, you got to have all the software tools and stuff, but you're right. Video just communicates so quickly because we're so bombarded with stuff online and stuff. So and you can actually text these things to people or email them to people.
And it's hard. Most people don't have that in a rec department. So to have somebody that says, oh, I can create videos on the side, but I also run athletic leagues, or I'm the special events coordinator, but I also know how to do that. You're really fortunate if you're a department that has that.
Yeah.
And I've only ever worked at one place that had a
Yeah.
media person.
To do it right, you almost have to have about $500 to $600 worth of subscriptions per month to have this editing subscription, this AI subscription, this voiceover subscription, and it's all these tools. And then you sit down a video content creator, and this is kind of like his tool chest that he uses to create all this. And so it's almost not worth it for a city to go sign up for all these tools that your content creator and your social media manager needs to do their job. That's like, $6,000 a year just in subscriptions.
No, but
And
if you compare that against an employee, you'd be better off contracting that out.
yeah. And actually, so in the world of social media and content creation, you need about 3 different people. You need a content creator, that's your video poster, graphics designer, that kind of person. That's one kind of a very artistic person. The second one you need is someone that knows how to work social media platforms, that's building community, that's working the comment section, that's growing the community, and another one that's in charge of distribution, and that's knowing the actual how Facebook and Instagram work as platforms. And so there's rarely you get a city that can hire even one of those, and they usually ask whichever one they hire, they ask them to do all 3.
Oh yeah.
So it's it can be kind of tricky. That I think it's, unless you've got a nice marketing budget, which some larger cities do, you need at least a 2 or 3 man team to have all the skill sets necessary to do that right. Which is why a lot of people just hire somebody like us. And I had no idea that this was going to be how we fund the Daily Parks and Rec show. I just knew I needed those people to build this out.
Yeah. Well, most cities, when we do special events, like I came here, I was like, "What's your marketing budget?" So we'd have like a $5,000 event. She'd be like, $50. I'm like,
Nice.
really? We're gonna spend $5,000 and we're gonna spend 50. Like it really has to come up. Rule of thumb I have is around 30%, and it needs to go out at least 30 days before the event.
Oh yeah. But you can promote these events year round, because some of these are big time annual, especially if you're on like the 5th or 10th year.
Yeah.
Doing the Christmas parade. It's like you got to start building that momentum 6 months in advance to get all the sponsorships, to get all the vendors to show up, and then you want people to show up to the event that day. Especially if you've got like a lot of food trucks that paid for their little booth and then nobody shows up. They're never coming back.
Oh yeah, that's a hard sell. Food trucks are they're a tricky thing we manage here.
Yeah. So tell me about some of your special events that y'all have there.
So, we do movies in the park. I think like a lot of cities, we started a bluegrass festival.
What's that?
2 years ago. So just music. East Tennessee, my first job, like I said, Unicoi, I kind of learned if you had bluegrass music and beans and cornbread, people would show up.
Just for that.
It didn't matter what you had.
Right.
If you could cover those bases, people would come, and each community is kind of different. So here we're in East Tennessee. We're not far from the Smoky Mountains. You can get a bluegrass degree at East Tennessee State University. So I just tried to find a little niche thing, and the city had invested in a stage. So we said, hey, let's have a little music event downtown on the green that maybe is a little unique. So it's the first weekend in May every year. So hopefully before it gets too hot, the weather's nice. And we just started rolling with it.
So is there any secrets that you've learned as far as putting on a good event, start to finish, that maybe mistakes you made early on that you found little hacks around?
Oh, well, with parades, don't ever put the livestock in front.
Why not?
I did that the first time. Then the marching band comes along and it's terrible.
Oh no.
Yeah, they had a town cow in Unicoi, just FYI, had to be in the parade. So the first year that I let them peer pressure me, and it was like, she's got to be first.
And then everybody's just walking through her stuff.
Trail.
Trail. Oh, anything else on a special event? Okay, so don't put the livestock in the front of the parade.
Yeah, I mean, special events, it's about marketing. It's about them knowing where they got to be ahead of time. I ran some special events early on where I didn't really manage the power situation well. So if 10 churches in your community are all going to fry something, and you have like one breaker, it's not going to last, and they're all going to be angry at you.
Yeah.
So power is a really big deal. And actually, our city here just invested in like 15 spots kind of on our downtown green that
Like travel trailer hookups and stuff.
Yep.
Yep.
And so naturally I said, okay, well, we have these hookups and we have a downtown location. So we turned it into a food truck park Monday through Friday. So it doesn't interfere with any special events.
Great idea.
But those people pay the city $75 a day to set up there.
Yeah.
So that's almost a no cost thing other than garbage and a few picnic tables that we're utilizing. We're giving a business space in the center of downtown with parking and road frontage and electricity. They just had to bring their trailer. So it's kind of nice for everyone.
Yeah. That's that is quite a little infrastructure project, because I've in a former life I used to be a master electrician, and I had a pile of service technicians, and we worked a lot for cities, and we've built those exact things you're talking about, where you'll have like an open field that has no electricity. We're trying to do a fair. Last time we did it with a few generators, it was a nightmare. They kept tripping breakers. They're like, okay, for next year, what can we do a little more permanent? And they put those little 220, 50 amp travel trailer things with a regular 120 receptacle on a post. And now you can park of some type of food vendor, or maybe even the band can plug into it, but you're not like running extension cords that are just smoking in the middle of a festival after you've planned this for 6 months.
In Parks and Rec, I never thought I'd have to know, you have to put a specific gauge on power cords for those people to come in. So, they have someone from the dollar store and they've run it 1,000 feet and they're like, I want to plug in an oven. Like,
yeah, that doesn't work.
So the power thing is huge.
Yeah. It voltage drops over distance. So anything over 100 feet, you're going from, let's say right at the receptacle, you had 120 volts. You're like, we're good. But if you run a 100-foot extension cord or 200 feet, now you've only got like 108 volts.
So and church lady don't care. She just wants it to work.
No, and they will plug a coffee pot. They'll just start plugging stuff like they've got unlimited amperage.
They will. So that's a nice thing. That will make us money too this year, as far as the Parks and Rec department, because that's a commercial venture. Basically, the city already has the property. If we don't plug them in regularly, it'll only be there for special events, and that seems like a waste of such an infrastructure upgrade. So this way, downtown is really lacking a lot of. I think it's under the process of a reformation, so we have a lot of food trucks here.
Yeah,
and they don't have
a place. Food trucks show up daily?
Well, it actually starts in late March this year, but we're booking. We've already booked out the first 6 weeks, and I put just 5 slots to start because I want them all to be successful, and then we have a ability to expand to 10.
Wow! Now y'all are the one with that. If I remember correctly, you have like the 2-story downtown.
Yes, sir. We have a double-decker downtown.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're listening to this, just go look up City of Morristown, Tennessee. They have the coolest little downtown. I know a lot of cities. And what's the population of Morristown?
30,000.
Yeah, that's actually a nice sized little town. But I've seen a lot of much smaller towns that have the cutest little downtowns, historic. But I've never seen one that's a double decker.
It's a great thing about East Tennessee is you'll see stuff like that.
Yeah,
around here. I know when I first moved here, there's a town near me. It's called Jonesboro. And they actually have a place still in their downtown that has like where the chariot would let people out, like a concrete step in the sidewalk. Where,
no way.
Carriages would let people out.
That's so neat.
It is. It's wild.
Yeah, you don't see much of that down here in Louisiana. We've got no hills, no mountains. It's all flat. The levee on the Mississippi River is the only thing we got that's a hill.
Oh, man.
And you live right in the middle of the mountains, right? Or very close.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Those big features are important for wherever you live, whether it's a river, or the Mississippi, or the mountains or the ocean or whatever. It just feel better when you're near a big feature for some reason.
Now, is there any so let's say you were mentoring someone that was new into Parks and Rec, you just got the director role. What are some 101 things you would tell them with regards to some of the stuff we've been talking about?
Well, one of the things I had to learn early was the elected officials matter a lot more than you do. Even though you have the expertise in what you're doing, what they want is going to happen. So I remember the first mayor gave me a job. He said, I want you to research this, and then we'll come together and we'll do this project. So I spent a couple weeks researching it, books, notes. I was all ready to go. We got there and he showed up and he was like, all right, we're doing it this way. And I was infuriated. But then what I really learned is it's his show. Just help him make it successful. And I've had a few guys that I've tried to help, and they're like, hey, a new election came and the new guy wants to do it totally different. He goes, but it's not the way it should be done. I was like, ultimately, it doesn't matter what you think.
Right.
You work there, and there's better governments, boards, city managers work for than others. But if you're going to have a career long term, you're going to go through waves of each of those.
Right.
So don't have your heart set on one thing that you want to do, how you want to do. Take whatever they give you and say, I'm going to make the most of it and the best out of it. And if you have that attitude, it keeps you from getting your feelings hurt, being bitter, being angry at what's happening, and just making them succeed. And the more you make them succeed, the more freedom you ultimately have in the long term. But people get those sacred cows, those things they love more than any, because they're passionate about it. And it can really do you in.
Yeah. Well, really, the elected official is essentially the will of the people. They all got together and they've got this one big position. It's mayor, right? And everybody votes, and the winner is in charge. And collectively, they enforce the will of the people that elected them. And even though they're not here nearly as long as a park and rec director, which is kind of the resident professional in running a parks and a recreation system, and each mayor typically just depends on them to do their job, but the mayor is beholden to the people that elected him there.
Yeah, and that's a difficult thing in our job. Like a lot of governments of any size are probably city manager led, which means the elected officials hire a city manager and he is their only employee. But that doesn't stop the elected official from coming to your office and telling you how to do your job.
Yeah.
It's just part of it, and we all have to learn to navigate that. And every department head in government, the police chief, public works, they all have some level of input.
Right.
So, one thing I've learned is anytime they come talk to you, go talk to your city manager or shoot them an email about the conversation. Because what makes it back to them if you don't tell them might not help you out in your career.
Right.
Well, hey, the Parks and Rec director said we should take on my pet project and spend all this budget money on it. He thinks it's the best thing and he's the professional. Well, that puts you at odds with your boss, who might be balancing a new road or having to expand the police force.
Right.
So you always, my first job, they said, don't play politics and you'll be okay. I was like, it's Parks and Rec. There's no politics. Those were some very naive things. There's a lot of politics. You have to learn how to duck, dodge, and dive it.
Right. Now, Parks and Rec of all the departments are the most forward facing. They're up in front, whereas a lot of the utilities, though it's very crucial.
You just went mute. Your microphone has a slash through it.
Did that work?
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Yeah. So what?
The Parks and Rec department is the front porch to a community. If you drive into a city and you see really rundown park, you're assuming that a lot of other things are run down a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah, and that city manager is having to do the very forward-facing projects like y'all that everybody claps their hands for, and then the thankless street and gutter and sewer. Every bit as important when they're not working, but might not be too glamorous. And you're gonna have a big ribbon cutting ceremony for the latest sewer treatment plant.
Absolutely, we're putting in new red light. Nobody claps and cheers, but everybody wants to cut down accidents. So we don't always see every piece of the pie, but I think you gain awareness longer in your career that it might not be that anybody's against parks or doesn't want to fund you or don't think it's important, but sometimes there's those competing needs sometimes will outweigh yours, and sometimes yours will outweigh theirs. I mean, it goes in a cycle.
Yeah. All right. Well, now, do you attend the Tennessee State Association?
Yes, sir.
So give us a rundown on that. How those associations doing, and why should someone attend?
Well, I think early on in your career, you just need any knowledge somebody's willing to give you because you have zero experience, basically. But after that, the connections you meet there start to become more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
When I go now, I'm always asking, what's the coolest thing you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all share. There's a program 50 or 60 miles away from you. You're not stealing any people from them.
Yeah.
You're saying, man, what you're doing is so great. I want to try something like it. So
Yeah.
those connections, you really, if somebody's got a new software, well, maybe you can't invest in it right now, but maybe it's great. Or trying a new way to market, or, get more registrations, that's really what I take from those things now. And then also as a director, I'm looking for talent. If somebody's good,
Yeah.
and I see them, doing something, and the way they're carrying themselves, and they're talking about their achievements, I'm like, and I have found some of my best employees just at conference.
Wow.
And, I've poached them from places, 50, 60 miles away. I'm like that person because I'm always looking for the very best.
Yeah.
And I want my people to be exposed to that too.
Yeah. Now, are there any highlights that you've maybe implemented? Say, I found out about this strategy, this plan, this whatever, and then we took it back and implemented it at our city?
I think early on in my career, we were having some Hispanic soccer leagues, and we were trying to collect these large fees up front from them. And in that community, those people were more week to week to week. So they were going to show up and they were going to pay you every week, but they could very easily make a weekly payment of a couple $100 as opposed to a single season payment of $3,000. So, I was talking to somebody else like, oh yeah, we used to have that problem. And then we just started billing them in different increments, so something they could handle, and they would come every Friday and pay us cash, and it worked. I mean, I was like, well, I can do that. There's no reason to have a huge headache over this invoice that's out there and people, criticizing why they're allowed to use it. And, cause you'd give them a week or two grace. And I said, well, let's do it that way. And it's just knowing people and communities, and each, the problem I have with sometimes people go, this is the way, like in RPA. Well, that is the way there, or in a community. But communities are all very different, from the level of support you get to the level of competition to the makeup. If you're a retirement community, the things you're going to put on are going to be way different than you're just a suburban community with a lot of kids. Or if you're a place that has a lot of, blue collar stuff, everybody's just so different. There's not a one size fits all, which has kept me from pursuing Capra, I would say, which is kind of they say, hey, you've checked all the boxes. You're the gold standard in structure of a department.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you just have to be more fluid than that. Like, processes are there to maintain, a consistent product, but there's not a box that you can put us all in.
Yeah, there really is such a verse because I mean, like, take the farmers market. Like, there are parks department that have inherited farmers market. Maybe it collapsed because someone else tried to run it, so now they're trying to run it. I heard of somebody else that actually hired somebody to say, you can have all the money the farmers market makes, but we get the recognition for it. And now that lady's doing really well, and the city's known as having a very successful farmers market. And then there's a lot of cities that don't even have a farmers market. And others that have swimming pools, and some that have no swimming pools. And so it really is, every city is like its own little fingerprint, and you've just got to field fit this thing and custom design your Parks and Rec department. And some stuff applies, I would say, but
yes,
a lot of it's custom fit.
But I know when I moved to some places, like, this was weird, another Unicoi story. They said, are you going to switch all our machines out to Coke because you're from Atlanta? And I was like, no, I said, I'm here to do what you guys like. I love soccer. Maybe it's not big here. Okay, we're not ever going to do soccer here. It doesn't make sense. What I like is irrelevant. This is a job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to serve this community in whatever engages the most people, whether I like it or not. And I've heard events that I thought were the worst idea ever and lame, and then I ran it up the pole and it was successful.
Yeah.
Candy cane hunt. That would be one I learned at conference, and I thought that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like an Easter egg hunt, but you do it at your Christmas program with candy canes. Kids love it, eat it up.
Oh man,
that's like, this is a horrible idea. I don't even like telling people about it in the beginning. And now I'm like, yeah, we do a candy cane hunt. There's 500 kids in it,
Well, kids won that argument.
Yeah, they did.
Another great example of how so many different communities are so different based off of, it's something unique to that community. I was talking to a guy named Nick Smith up in Newaygo, Michigan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about cost recovery. This guy has zero tax money. He had to make 100%. And when he got his little park department, it was making $500,000 a year. And after 6 years, he got it over 1.1 million. And it's all revenue. So he makes about an extra 100,000 a year. But I mean, and if anybody hasn't, I think it's episode 6. Let me see what episode that is, because it was a good one. If you just want to be a student of cost recovery, 64, number 64 on our YouTube channel. And here's a guy that he has to know how to recover costs, because he has no, government bailing him out, no property tax, no sales tax at all. And, but then others, they're blessed with having a solid property tax. Maybe that's earmarked purely for, like my old city, Baton Rouge. They have a property tax that's just for Parks and Rec. So they don't.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
That's cool to have. So you've got all in between. You've got guys like Nick that get zero and have to kill everything that they're going to eat. And then you got others that have really good, and then others are really good at grants, especially if you live in like where there's like poor people, and they can get grants much better than if there's an affluent community. And the Park and Rec director's just got to make work whatever he inherits. So,
you do. You figure out where your niche is and you try to survive in it. And that's what we're all doing. Man.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you sharing all that stuff about the whole cost recovery thing. And I really think you bring a different perspective. And by the way, if you've not been to city of Morristown, or go check it out online, it is the coolest little town in Tennessee. If you like one of those kind of mountainous towns.
Yeah, we're just on the foothills, kind of outside Gatlinburg, and then kind of outside Western North Carolina a little bit. So we're right there in the middle, but they're all around us. The beautiful lakes, rivers, and mountains.
I love it. Now, are you going to, when is y'all's state association? Did that just happen?
It just happened. It's always in September, October each year. And next year it's in Kingsport, Tennessee. So the very eastern district corner.
All right. Well, I'm going to have to try to make it up there to one of them and do the podcast. I can do about 10 a year. Texas is one. I think I've done 4 so far this year. So one day I want to make it to Tennessee because I love that state.
Texas has one of the really good guys from the Woodlands Township. I think he was director there for many years.
Yes.
And his name, and now he's with he's like assistant city manager or something.
Yeah.
But he's one of the guys that's, I would say, similar to Tom O'Rourke. He's like, we're looking at heat maps. I'm taking pictures of job sites, for the construction stuff, things that may not be normal for a lot of people, but you can be out on the front edge of things if you can take a few things that he does and go, oh man, that can apply to me.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a long conversation. I met him in Arkansas a long time ago at a convention. And then we just met up I was at the Alabama convention. I did a podcast from there. So he was there. He taught several classes. And so he's a legend in this. We got to get Chris on the show. He's just so busy. That man travels. I think he's got the record.
I think so too. He's like, I get 32 days off a year and I spend 28 of them or something like that at conferences.
That's right. He does. He ain't lying. He does. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Travis. I appreciate you.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you. And, hopefully we talk about some of this marketing stuff some other time too.
Yeah, I'll send you some information on it. Hopefully.
Thanks, man.
Yep. Take care.
All right. You too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So that was Travis over in Morristown. Awesome little community that he's in charge of. Got a lot going on there. I really liked how he spoke about just representing yourself well to the elected officials, and that as a park and rec director, it is about the community. It's about the kids. It's about the older people that are part of your programs, but it's definitely also about the people that fund and have to write the checks for, and then are held accountable by the people that elected them. You know, you got to involve them. These are the guys that are going to be taking the heat for you when you've asked them to fund this big playground or this big field or whatever. So involve them, bring them to ribbon cutting ceremonies, do whatever you can. And as Travis said, collect that data, show them the numbers speak volumes. Some people understand things with their heart, but there's a big chunk of the population that their love language is numbers. So you got to show them the numbers, show them the metrics, especially if you're going to be asking them to help get behind some of these projects that you want to do for your community. So great job, Travis. Glad to have you on the show. All right. So, we're going to be in Texas. I am driving there. I'm in Shreveport on my way coming from Louisiana. That's why I'm airing from the car again. But if you'd like to support us, please consider just hiring the Daily Parks and Rec Show to do a video for you. We make videos every single day for y'all, for the Daily Parks and Rec Show, to bring guys like Travis on and to tell the story of Parks and Rec. And we're starting to make promo videos. And let me give you an example of one that we have. This is for career. So really pushing these out there. These are on YouTube. This is one Catherine made. Actually, and I'm gonna play Chris's because it's a little bit longer. Now, if you have high schoolers that are working for you during the summer, lifeguards, grass cutters, concession stand workers, camp counselors, tons of high schoolers. Did you know that you're probably the largest employer of high schoolers in your city? That's very common for the Parks Department to be the first job of high schoolers and the biggest employer of summer high school help and stuff. And so you've got an opportunity to play this video and then say, guys, I would just like to give you all a little insight of what working for Parks and Rec looks like. And so if you're the director, bring your superintendent, bring one of your programmers, bring one of your coaches, and do a good job of planting the seed to help high schoolers consider taking Parks and Rec as their career path, and that they'll go to school for it. So we made a little video for the community. Y'all are all welcome to use this. No, like you don't need, I'm giving y'all permission, right? Go ahead and use it and get this in front of these high schoolers so that they can go to school for Parks and Rec and not go to school for teaching and then figure out, I don't want to teach and end up in Parks and Rec. And so guess what program at the university gets cut because there's no students in it? Not the teaching program who ended up educating someone that ended up in Parks and Rec, but the Parks and Rec programs are not having students in them. And so a lot of universities are starting to close down their Parks and Rec degrees. And so if we want to do something about this, the parks departments are in the perfect position to plant seeds in the high school days because they employ the largest number of high schoolers in their cities. So all you got to do is just have a 5-minute conversation, 10-minute, 20-minute conversation during orientation, when you're training your camp counselors, when you're bringing them in, because this is the first paycheck, first everything. Sit them down in the room, play this, and say, hey, I'd like to tell y'all what it's like to do my job. And then maybe have your superintendent there and a couple other people. So anyway, let me go ahead and press play on this.
Your career, your community, your legacy. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show. Today, we're diving into one of the most rewarding and impactful career paths out there, parks and recreation. Are you unsure about your career path? Don't worry, we've all been there. But here's a thought. What if you could build a career that combines your love for the outdoors, creativity, and community impact? Did you know colleges like Indiana University, NC State, and Texas A&M offer parks and recreation degree programs? These courses prepare you for exciting careers, from urban park design to event planning, and even environmental conservation. Careers in parks and recreation are as diverse as they are impactful. You could become a park manager, ensuring green spaces are accessible and beautiful, a recreation coordinator, organizing community events and sports leagues, an urban planner, designing parks that bring neighborhoods together, or even an environmental specialist, protecting natural resources for future generations. Parks and recreation isn't just a career, it's a way to create lasting change. Whether it's through managing a local park or leading a conservation project, you're making a real difference. And here's the best part. Parks and recreation is for everyone. Whether you love planning, designing, leading, or conserving, there's a role for you in this exciting field. Choosing parks and recreation means choosing a career full of purpose, passion, and possibilities. And you don't have to have all the answers right now. Just take that first step. Ready to get started? Explore programs at universities like Michigan State, Clemson, or the University of Utah. Discover the career that's waiting for you. Are you passionate about the outdoors? Curious about a career that makes a real impact? Or maybe you just love learning how parks and recreation bring communities together? Then it's time to subscribe and follow the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
All right. So great job, Chris, on making that. Chris can make something like that for your community as well, on anything. But I think that's going to be the one geared for a high schooler that's working for you to plant that seed of considering parks and recreation as a career path. Okay. So how else can you work with us? Many of you know I used to manufacture lots of LED lights, all for parks and recreation, for walking trails, solar lights, all that kind of stuff. I'm retired from that, but I did keep one manufacturing line just for the sports arena light, and it's the one that replaces the 1500 watt metal halide, which is the one. There's millions of them all over America, these old lights that have the bulbs and balances. This is just a workhorse that does not quit. It's a 100,000 hour light that you just hand to your maintenance guys. So it's not when you want to replace every light and rebuild it from the ground up. It's just when you want LED lights on your field, you want them to come on and turn off. And then we work with a company that has a powerful little app that you can turn these things off and on with your cell phone. And so that way you can turn them off, your whole system, from your bed, from the beach, wherever you're at. When one of your coaches, just leave them on. Great little function there. And these lights have 100,000 hour lifespan, and anybody can install them. If you can pretty much wire a receptacle, you're qualified to do this. As long as you're not scared of heights and you can rent a lift, or just hire a local electrician. Buy the lights. They're about $850 a piece. You can relamp a whole field for $35,000, $40,000. And you're done. These lights give zero problems. If they ever give you a problem, I'll send you a brand new one. So I did this for 2 decades of my life. Now I'm out of that, and I am full-time building this media company for Parks and Rec and having a blast doing it. As you can see, I'm in my Tesla building out this media company for this industry, telling the story of Parks and Rec. And I have just had some really great conversations with you guys. This is such an honor to be able to highlight your careers and tell your stories and what you're doing to build Americans' communities and build our spaces that we walk in and play in and spend time with our family in. And so thank y'all so much for the work that y'all are doing. On my way to Traps to catch the 2 last days over there and interview a few people that I'm close to. So I really appreciate all of Texas and what they do for parks. They run a great state full of parks departments. So awesome job. I will see y'all here tomorrow. We've got, and let me see who I've got tomorrow. Tomorrow upcoming is John Jimenez from Chippewa Falls. And we have Nick at Watsonville, California on Friday. So had a full week this week. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. Find our YouTube channel, The Daily Parks and Rec Show. And this is going live right now on X. If you're not on X, that's where everything goes live instantly. It's very friendly to creators. The other platforms, they wait until you grow a little bit bigger. So because we just kind of launched this, you'll see our stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook and our Facebook group, Parks and Rec Done Right. It also posts on YouTube a few days later, but it's going live right now on X. So if you're not on X, get on X, find us. Please follow us there for all of these live videos. And if you want to see the content library, that's all on YouTube. So find us on YouTube. And if you want to find those little career videos, we've got 3 or 4 of them up there. Feel free to use them to show to your high schoolers. And hopefully you can plant some seeds in some young minds to consider this great industry as a career path that's super fulfilling. So love you guys. I will see y'all here tomorrow. Craig LeBlanc, the doorman, with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.